Password.
Roadblock, stalker.
Get in.
Take my rifle.
Hey, greetings. You won't believe what kind of books I found out there. I had to go to the Great Library, and I've recovered some very rare beauties indeed. Some very, very rare beauties. First off, we have Metro 2033 in mint condition. Next, we have the acclaimed Animal Farm. This will fetch a high price. And finally, last but not least, I've got Murakami's Norwegian wood.
Hello YouTube, it is Harkness.
Greetings, stalkers. Today I have a review for 3 books I managed to find in the surface. The first book that we're going to be talking about will be Metro 2033, Animal Farm, and then, last but not least, Haruki Murakami's Norwegian Wood. These 3 books are really, really, really good in my opinion, and it's a must. Well, Animal Farm is a must read, but Norwegian Wood is pretty good. Also, so is Metro 2033. Alright. The first book that we're going to be talking about is Metro 2033 by Dmitry Glukovsky. You've probably heard of this book because of the Metro 2033 game. Dmitry Glukovsky wrote this in his native Russian language, and this one is translated to English. It became a game because one day one of the former developers of Stalker in 4A Games saw what Dimitri was doing and said, "Hey man, we'd like to turn your book into a game." And it turns out to be a really good game spanning 3 games thus far. And the books have been very, very popular in the East and West. So, yes. The plot of Metro 2033 is that it takes place after a global nuclear war, where Russia and America have finally traded nukes and the world was never the same again. We follow the story of Artyom. Artyom lives at the bottom of a metro station. The reason is that the metro stations of Moscow was turned into a nuclear bunker. Dmitry Glukovsky would always ride these metro tunnels, and then he said, wouldn't it be interesting to set a post-apocalyptic story in these tunnels? And upon further research, he found out that yes, in real life, the metro tunnels of the metro could actually withstand nuclear bombs. The Soviet Union did this in an attempt to protect its citizens, to make them survive the nuclear wastelands and the disasters that would soon follow. So Artyom was born, I think, before the bombs fell, and then his station got overrun by rats. He lost his mom and was adopted, and then he has aspirations to become a ranger. There are many factions in the metro. First, we will look at here. As you can see, if you buy the book, you're actually given a free map of the metro station. It's excuse me, let me wipe the camera a bit. It is well printed and very, very beautiful. We have even legends here. Hold up. Camera's not picking it up well. Apologies if you can't see it. There's the red line, the Hansa ring of stations, the literal ring, and then the Fourth Reich is here. If you plan to read this book, I suggest you actually go back from the cover and follow the stations. That way, it's easier to understand where Artyom is coming from. So yeah, the biggest threat that the Metro is facing right now is the rise of the Dark Ones. The Dark Ones are these powerful mutants that are said to be the next step in human evolution. Homo no Homo no what do you call that again? In this page, Homo novulis, I think. Homo. I can't remember. I'm sorry, my fellow listeners. Something like that. A next step to human evolution, and they threaten the Metro. Hunter is tasked to stop them. Hunter is a well-respected protector of the Metro, so he comes up to Artyom and says, "Artyom, if I don't come back," he then gives Artyom his dog tag and says, "Make sure to give my message to my leaders." And then he disappears and Artyom's journey begins. Okay, so now I've given the basic plot and the world. But first off, I'll tell you what I really liked about this book. I really, really loved the world building and the thought Dimitri placed on this book. Like, you wouldn't believe how well thought out it was. I found many of his descriptions of the claustrophobic nature of the metro tunnels to be very, very good. Like that one time where they were surrounded by all sides into the darkness, and Khan was the only person accompanying them. You can't help but feel that same dread of Artyom. And oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the world building. To show you how much Dimitri has thought about this book, there are communal bonfires. No one is allowed to have personal fires because many metro stations have already caught on fire. So they did this in an attempt to control people from burning down things. And next was the Great Library, below the Great Library, where I'm pretty surprised how the people value knowledge here, because well, it makes sense because books are the only things that survived in the old world, and thus people treasure it because it's their glimpse into the life that they had back. So books like Kafka and other stuff. Artyom is a huge fan of Kafka. Good taste. The man has good tastes. Now, there are these librarians, the Brahmins, and also overall the world building. How much Dimitri put his thought into it is really, really good. However, I do have some critique in this book. Dimitri really likes to take his time. I mean, he really likes to take his time. This is probably the longest book I've read. I like reading short books, 100, 200 pages. So if you're not fond of that, well, you might have a hard time reading this book. And also, what really surprised me, this isn't really a con, but what really surprised me is how barely Artyom fires his weapon. He's only killed like 4 to 3 people in this entire book, from what I can remember. And another thing is there are some characters who do not exist in the Metro games that make an appearance in this book and play quite a big role. One of them is Daniel, named after me. And also, there are some people with personalities that are completely different from the book compared to the game. For example, Bourbon. I really like Bourbon in the game. He was such a nice fellow, even if he had somewhat of a shady past. Bourbon was very nice. He even offered you his... wait. Give me a sec, dear viewer. He even offered his Kalashnikov. Yep, he even offered his Kalashnikov to Artyom and says, "Alright, you're immune to the Dark One's bullshit. So, alright, I'll give you my Kalashnikov." And he was also very, very helpful to Artyom, telling him not to step on this because it will give away your position. Like that. But in the book, he's a complete asshole. Because once Artyom was gonna reach Dry Station, he actually planned to kill him and take his belongings. And one last thing I'd like to note about Metro 2033 is that there are a lot of paranormal happenings here. There are lots of anomalies that mess with the mind and perception of the reader and Artyom. One example is the Moscow spires. The Moscow spires, the ones that look like onions. All right, I'll flash a picture on screen. There's this red star, and whoever looks into those red star will become drawn to it. They'll keep on walking and walking, even if mutants are already chasing them. They'll just come closer until they finally run out of filters in their gas masks. So yeah, very, very. Not, it's not really a bad thing, but it's certainly interesting compared to the game. And the ending is pretty tragic. The ending of the game, the bad ending of the game wasn't really good, but in this book, it was well thought out and it was actually very, very tragic. Alright? And I give this book a final score of 4 out of 5. It's not really a must read, but if you could read this, if you have the patience to read it, go ahead. It's really, really good. What else? Oh, by the way, if you live in the Philippines, you will probably have a very, very hard time getting your hands in this book. The most popular book chain brand in the Philippines is called Fully Booked. Unfortunately, I cannot find any more copies of this in Fully Booked. They've completely ran out. And not only that, this paperback edition, if I ever bought it in Fully Booked, it would be worth like 800, 900 pesos, which is very, very expensive. However, during the Big Bad Wolf book sale, I managed to nab this for just 150 pesos. So, in case there's a Big Bad Wolf and you want to read it in its physical form, I highly suggest you do so. This book is pretty damn good and even comes with a map, which is really, really sweet. Also in the back is a... Hold on dear viewer. Also in the back is actually the cover of the game, Fear the Future. So yeah, Metro 2033, a smash hit in Eastern Europe, but when the games got released, it became very, very popular, like The Witcher. Actually, The Witcher and Metro 2033 share a lot in common, but unlike The Witcher, Dimitri is actually a good author. I mean, a good author to the game companies behind them. Trust me, it's a very interesting story about Dimitri versus the author of The Witcher. Anyways, moving on to our second book, we have Haruki Murakami's Norwegian Wood. This book was given to me by my girlfriend. Thank you so much, Maya. This book is very, very different from the style that Murakami is known for. This is a big departure from the style that he's known for. And he tried to do something like romance, but this actually skyrocketed his popularity. And he's still confused why. Alright, before I'm gonna say this book has a lot of sex. And yeah. So anyways, the basic plot follows Toru and his friend, oh god, I forgot. Naoko, yes, Naoko. Toru and his friend Nagasawa. What's her name again? Naoko, finally. Naoko. After the death of their friend, Toru decided to study off to Japan, to Tokyo to study German. But unfortunately for him, his friend, not really girlfriend, but he has a big not really a big romantic interest, but is interested to the well-being of I'm about to say Nagasawa. Nagasawa is a character in this book. What's her name again? Naoko. That's right. Naoko. Naoko has mental problems like mood swings. She cries during her 20th birthday, and this book is about isolation, sadness, and trying to move on past tragedies. Alright, first off, I'm gonna talk about the characters because this is what I really liked about this book. The characters of this book are very amazing. Even if they are somewhat of an asshole, you can't help but empathize them. One of them is Nagasawa. Nagasawa is... When I first read it, I was like, damn, I really respect this guy. He wants to be a diplomat. I want to be a diplomat when I grow up. He also has a brother in medicine. My brother is in medicine, so that was two coincidences, and then his family is well off. Damn, alright, I feel like I'll relate with this guy a lot. And he also likes classic books, especially The Great Gatsby. Haven't finished The Great Gatsby yet. Currently having a hard time reading it, but I'll try to finish it. But there's a problem. He's a serial cheater, but you can't help but admire the man for who he is. There's like this cognitive dissonance going in your head. Another example of a character I really liked here was Reiko. Reiko, the 30-ish woman who was living with Naoko. She's really good with the guitar, and her backstory is very, very, very tragic. I'm not gonna spoil it to you, but you should really read it. It's amazing. And what else? We also have Stormtrooper. Has somewhat something to do with the German stormtroopers, but it's pretty hilarious. He is Toru's dorm mate. But anyways, oh yeah, and also who do you call that girl again? No. Reiko, Toru. She's this rebellious girl. What's her name? Midori. That's right, Midori. Midori. She's rebellious. Her dialogues are funny at times, like calling men fascists for liking her having long hair. But okay, let's get into the nitty gritty of this book. Even if this book has a lot of very, very descriptive sex scenes, I must say this is not a romance book. Like, this book just made me feel somewhat relatable. Let me tell you why. You see, Naoko is afraid of her 20th birthday because all of this responsibility suddenly just fell on her. When I turned 18, my dad would always tell to me that, you know what, Daniel, you're an adult now. Act like your age. I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's not his fault, but, you know, when it's almost like moving to a school for the first time. Like you've been, how could I describe it? It's like you've been spending your entire life in that school and then suddenly you're thrown into this new university. No friends, no nothing, and not only that, you're a young adult and your emotions just go crazy. You don't know what to do. And in a way, I could somewhat relate with Naoko. It's not really her fault either. Yeah, I know. This book could get really, really dark at times. And at one point in the book, it just gets very, very tragic, and you just feel the whole weight of the world fall into the shoulders of Toru. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, while this book is going on, there is a school revolution going on. I find this relatable because in the Philippines there are lots of people on the very, very far left who keep on protesting to dismantle the school, the education system, yada yada yada, and I could somewhat relate to Toru and Midori's feelings about those types of people. So yeah, Norwegian Wood is very relatable to young adults, and I could kind of see why. But however, I must warn you, this is a roller coaster of emotions. Some might find it boring, but if you have the patience, trust me, this will really, really reward you. And this book is quite long, 400 plus pages, just like Metro 2033. So I actually rate this book 4.3, 4.4 out of 5. It's pretty good. I think it's better than Metro 2033, actually. Sorry, Dimitri, but yeah. Some people don't like Norwegian Wood, though. But that's alright. Everyone has their own preferences. If you're not into like sappy, it's not really romantic, I would say, as I said. But if you're not really that much into that kind of stuff, feel free to give it a pass. I'm not forcing you. Then our last book is Animal Farm by George Orwell. when I picked up Animal Farm, I made sure to get myself the Penguin copy. If you get 1984, I really suggest you get the Penguin copy because look at this cover. Absolutely beautiful. Out of all my books, this has to be the most beautiful of them all. After The Stranger, I think I really like the cover design of The Stranger by Albert Camus. But you didn't come here to, well, you didn't come here to buy the cover, but you know, it kind of looks good. But if you plan to buy 1984, I suggest you buy the Penguin copy. So, Animal Farm by George Orwell. If you're in the humanitarian classes and you study literature, I won't be surprised if this was a required reading for you. Basically, Animal Farm is an allegory of the Soviet Union. It was George Orwell's own satirization of the Soviet Union. But what I really liked about this book is that instead of using real people, George Orwell decided to use animals as stand-in for people. Why did he do that? It's simple, to make this book timeless. No matter the age, no matter where you're from in the future, this book will almost never age. I mean, all of these books that I have above are classics. Yes, they won't age, but this is the book that I could completely say will not age at all. Anyone can read this, even kids could read this, since it was written in a way that animals are the main characters, like a fable. Yeah, that's the word I've been looking for all this time. So anyways, George Orwell, my favorite author, he wrote Animal Farm, and oh yeah, it is a stand-in for the Soviet Union. There are many characters in Animal Farm. One of them was, oh yeah, Jones. Jones the farmer. He is a stand-in for Tsar Nicholas II, the former emperor of Russia. He's like shown as this decrepit dictator. Then next we have, who do you call those farmers again? Mr. Plinkton. Plinkington? Something like that. Mr. P. Mr. P is a stand-in for the United States and for the United Kingdom. The next we have Snowball, who represents Joseph Stalin of the Soviet Union. Oh no, Snowball is Leon Trotsky, my bad. Stalin is represented by Napoleon. Squealer is either a reference to Pravda. Pravda is the news outlet of the Soviet Union, the newspaper outlet of the Soviet Union, while he could also represent Joseph Goebbels, the mouthpiece of Adolf Hitler. Then we have Boxer, who represents the normal working class Russians. Poor Boxer, the guy didn't, it's kind of sad. And I think the sheeps represent being literal fucking sheeps. They just repeat what the leaders say. So Animal Farm starts out with Old Major gathering around all of the animals because Mr. Jones didn't feed the animals again. So yeah, Old Major represents either Vladimir Lenin or Karl Marx. So he tells them about this dream he has, like about animalism. He tells them that, hey guys, I dream of a time when animals all live together, blah blah blah. And our main enemy is actually the humans. The humans don't make milk, they don't make eggs, they don't make meat. Screw them. Let's revolt. So all the animals get up in a frenzy. But there were two animals that really, really took it to heart. The pigs really took it to heart. They were the smartest. But the two who really took it well was Snowball and Napoleon. So yeah. But what really makes this book special in my opinion is that it represents what happens in revolutions. I don't want to get political, but I think this is the best way to describe it. Look at the one that's happening in Syria. We see the FSA fighting the Syrian Arab army. The Western media would like to call Assad a dictator. Just to draw parallels to the book, let's not get political. Let's just draw parallels to the book, okay? Okay? So, it's almost like Assad is like the old leader of the country and is trying to be replaced only for the revolution to get hijacked and turned into utter jack shit. Or how about Muammar Gaddafi when he was kicked out? Libya didn't improve. It became another cycle of never-ending violence. To the point that some people thought that they're better off with Gaddafi. The same thing about Saddam Hussein. Yeah, he was terrible, but he kept the people in check. And now that he's gone, Iraq is falling apart, and the U.S. can't do anything about it. And it's tragic. It's almost like Animal Farm. You would read lots and lots of articles comparing failed revolutions to Animal Farm, which makes this book a timeless classic. And the fact that it was written with animals makes it even more brilliant because everyone at every certain of age, young and old, could appreciate what this book could bring. And that's the genius behind Orwell, which is why I really respect this man, even if we somewhat don't agree politically. I still admire the man for what he created. And you might say that this book is pro-communism. You could look at it that way. I don't see it as that. I just see it as a book that shows the downfall of revolutions when they get hijacked and when people are too dumb to figure out what is going on, that they're being tricked like puppets. They're being played like a goddamn fiddle! So anyways, I really like this book. One of my favorites. I give it a 5 out of 5. It's up there with 1984, The Stranger, Fight Club in my all-time best. I really enjoyed this one. It's really, really, really good. And not only that, it is only 100 plus pages, I think. Yeah, only 100 plus pages. So you could read this in one afternoon, which is amazing. So yeah, that concludes my Metro 2033 themed book review. So anyways, let's snap back into reality. Ladies and gentlemen, don't worry, we're gonna have another book review. This time, I was planning to make a Valentine's Day special book review, an advanced Valentine's Day for my GF. I think I will do, and I'll just review one book, also one of my favorites, Paulo Coelho. So we could look forward to a lot of book reviews. Currently, I am trying to read The Great Gatsby. After I'm done with The Great Gatsby, I will move on to Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami, the one that really defined his style. Probably the next thing I will review is Fahrenheit 451, the lowest rated book I have here. Oh no. My lowest rated would have to be this version of Dante's Inferno. It's so hard to follow. I don't know if I'm an idiot or not. And also The Stranger, Brave New World. I have a hard time reading this. Hey, I like to be honest, but the message is pretty good. So anyways, I'm glad you guys have stuck around and listened to me yap about books once again. Anyways, if you really enjoyed the content I'm making, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It means a lot to me, even if I don't earn a single cent in YouTube. I just really like what I am doing here. You could stick around for my cooking content, my airsoft content. I'm bound to have airsoft content around next week, so stay tuned for that. And also, I really hope this inspired you to read. Reading is one of the best things you could do for yourself. You will learn so much from these fiction books. All of these books right here are self-help books, but the idea behind them are hidden between the lines of fiction. So you really have to pay attention. And it also entertains you. Lots of life lessons that you could learn from these. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And thank you so much for watching this till the end. It really, really touches me because people are willing to put up with me yapping without a script and so on. And always remember, folks, life is always good. Make the best out of it. Okay? Until next time, see you for the next video.